Welcome to Conversations with Craig. I'm your host, Craig Lee. I've worked with many leaders throughout my career. I have learned from some wonderful mentors, and in turn, I've helped a range of people as they grow and evolve professionally. Join me fortnightly as I shine a light on leaders who influence others to deliver outcomes that make our society a better place. These leaders are candid about the fun and difficult times over their career journeys. You'll also note they are all passionate about their work. So whether you're leading a small team or navigating an enterprise, join me to explore what real leaders do to make an impact. Let's find out what it takes to turn vision into reality and learn some lessons from their experiences that may be useful to anyone who is starting, building, or struggling in their own leadership journey. This episode, I travel virtually to Singapore to chat with an old friend of mine, Lee Ang Seng. Ang Seng is the Managing Director of Beca in Singapore. He's one of the most humble leaders I've ever met. He's also one of the most effective leaders I've ever met. He's a great people person, and he really puts people ahead of himself to make sure they succeed in their leadership journeys. It's really great to catch up with you, Ang Seng. I've really enjoyed our relationship. I've had a lot of fun with you, and it's been great. But I've always admired your leadership and your style, particularly your resilience and the way you articulate things, and really looking at it from a fairness perspective, as well as getting that balance right with where the business needs to go. So it's a real privilege to be able to talk to you today. So it's great. So, mate, I'd just like to ask you, just maybe go back to the start. I'm just really interested in, because I grew up in Australia. You grew up in
Singapore.
Singapore, yeah. Yes. And just a couple of things like, where were you born? What did your parents do? What was their influence on you? And perhaps those early years when, young Ang Seng's sort of making his way out in life, how did it all begin?
Yeah, sure. I am happy to talk about that. I was born in Singapore in 1963, so it's quite long ago. So you can guess my age.
You're only right?
You can guess my age now. I didn't come from a very wealthy family. In fact, during those years, it's still the development. By the way, Singapore as a nation became independence in 1965. So I was just born 2 years before independence, and you could imagine that the life then in Singapore, we were not wealthy families, and you can see a lot of villages around Singapore is underdeveloped, not yet developed, but became independent from Malaysia. My late father then was a food store. He owned a food store selling desserts, And my mom wasn't working, and then I have two other siblings, my two other sisters, one elder sis, and the other one is a younger sister. So it was tough life then. My late father worked very hard, but unfortunately he contracted cancer at the age of 49, relatively young, and then he passed on. And my mother has to take on the work of selling desserts as a hawker, And so at that time I was age 14. I was just a young teenager. So if you ask what kind of influence your parents had on me, I would say my late father, especially him, he taught me lots of things, in my growing up years to a teenager. He taught me how to be honest in dealing with others. And even my Chinese name, my last word on my Chinese character is the word honesty. So he taught me about being honest about dealing with others. And one of the things I admire a lot about my late father was that he really showed sacrificial love, towards his family. Those days were hard days, very tough and difficult days. But he gave all his all, to help to bring out a family. So I think I was quite influenced by him, although, just 14 years with him, but I knew that he was a man that I really admire.
You said your mother was a hawker. What was she selling? What was she selling when
She
she
took
was?
over my father's business. So we were selling desserts, hot and cold desserts, because those are the easiest thing to do. So in those
Yeah.
days, the government, my father was a hawker originally selling on the roadside. And then during the developmental years of our country, the government
Yeah.
started, inviting hawkers on the streets into a proper, we call a hawker center. So it's basically a food court center. So my mom looked after the store, took over from my dad, and worked for a couple of more years. Yeah. So those were the days. So
Okay.
when my father, you can imagine when my father passed away during that time, we were all very young. I was only 14. My elder sis was only 16. And then I have a younger sis that is only six years old. So it was a tough time during those time. Yeah.
And did your mother have extended family, like grandparents or anyone to help, or was
Right. My mother was born in Singapore, and she has other 5 or 6 other siblings, which is my aunties and my uncles. So they are from a big family, and I have my grandparents. I must also say that during those very difficult times after my father passed on, they were help from my uncles and aunties as well. I mean, financial help. Because it's not easy for my mother alone to bring out 3 growing up kids. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So when did you leave school?
Well, I graduated with a diploma in electrical engineering from a Singapore Polytechnic. After my O levels, I went to the Polytechnic in Singapore.
Yeah.
And that was back in late 80s. And so, and I graduated with a diploma in electrical engineering. Now, after that, I did not immediately pursue a degree because at that time, I just wanted to start working so that the life of my mom will be easier to support, so that I can be self-supporting rather than relying on my mother. And so, so I started working for a while before I went to pursue a degree. Now, many people were taught that you graduated with a diploma in electrical engineering, you should have then pursue an engineering degree. But I chose different pathway because I felt that I wanted to do a management degree. I wanted to do business management, managing people, managing business, and so on. So I pursued a management degree, and it was a long distance learning, which the university is the National University of Ireland, and they have lecturer that comes to Singapore, and there was an institution here that conduct the degree course for close to about two years, and so I graduated with honor degrees in a bachelor degree in management. In management is honor degree, so that is roughly my my path in the area of my academic path. Yeah.
What was your first job once you'd I suppose once you'd secured your degree? Where'd you go to then?
So I before I got my degree, I actually started working. I said after I graduated my diploma, right? And I actually was helping my cousin. My cousin, he owned a electrical contracting business. So he asked me to join him, and that was my first job. I help in his business. He's doing electrical installation work for buildings and so on. So I helped him for a couple of years to see how working life is and so on.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, my first job. Yeah.
And did you learn any lessons out of that job, or did they come later? Did you Are there any sort of fundamentals you learn about work and business from that job?
Yeah, certainly. The first lesson I learned is the importance of having people in the business. And that was my first, because in the contracting business, right, you need people to help you deliver the work. Whether they are electricians, workers, or they are skilled electricians or they are workers, you need the people. And so in order for the business to thrive, you need people to help you deliver. And that was the first lesson I learned, how important people is in a business, because it's unlike some of the business you have in the modern days, right? You can do a one-man show without having people, you can get things done. But no, this is a business where you have to physically install, you have to do electrical installations in buildings. And so you need people. So my first lesson is you need good people to be able to help you with your business. To do well in your business, you need good people. And that was the first lesson I learned. Yeah.
And that's obviously resonated with you, because ever since I've known you've been excellent with people, and you really do care about your people, and you get the best out of people, and they get the best out of you.
Yeah. One thing about me is that I like to observe others, their leadership skill especially, and to learn from them. I find that to be a great leader, you do not need to be good or be competent in everything that you do. But good leader, in my opinion, they first must be really authentic leader. They are thoughtful, and they are constantly seeking to learn new things, and especially learning from others. And also if you are called to be a leader, be it in a business or, any form of leadership, great leaders or good leaders needs to have clear vision of what you are exactly doing and trying to achieve. And also, being a leader, you don't just focus on trying to please yourself, but instead focus on how you would lead others, especially towards achieving a goal. Now, what makes a leader great is that they have a vision, and they will lead people towards that vision to achieve a goal. So they also must be able to inspire and empower others. And as I observe leaders past and present, I feel that good leaders lead with courage, and they lead with integrity. We have, even in our political leaders, like you can have great political leaders, but they have no integrity. They will fail as a leader. But great leaders, they lead with courage, with integrity, and they must also be able to make hard decisions, especially the decisions are made for the common good of everyone, for others, not for themselves, And I think if leaders behave like that, they will definitely command huge respect from others. I've seen leaders fall, because whatever they seek to do is always about themselves, how to make themselves rich, for example, and wealthy. So they fall. So great leaders must always strive for the common good of others and for the business, not for themselves.
It's 100% right. And as you know, having that vision and taking others on that journey takes a lot of work, because you might think everyone understands the vision, but they may not. And you mentioned courage there too. What do you mean by that? Courageous in what way? You mentioned courage before. A great leader has to have courage.
Yes.
So in courageous in what way? What do they need to be courageous in?
I mean, just my example, during my time in the business, there were ups and downs, right? Especially during a downturn. During a downturn, your business are badly impacted. So what do? So that you need to make a hard decision about, for example, downsizing your business.
Yeah.
or people use the term right sizing, right? So it's a hard decision, but it's an important decision, and it's a decision that is necessary for the business to survive, because there are many others in the business that they have a living, right? So we have to make a hard decision. So then this decision to downsize is not taken lightly or taken quite easily. But as a leader, you have to have the courage. And as I always say, the decision you make is always for the common good of others, for the business, not for yourself. And so you have to make a hard decision to decide to first do a downsizing exercise. And the next decision you need to make is then who will be in that downsize list, that we call it a retrenchment list. Now, it's not an easy decision also. So being a great leader, you have to then be courageous enough, be thoughtful, always with empathy, and then make a decision to downsize. And when a decision is made, don't run away from it. Face up to it. Talk to the affected people who are in the retrenched list, and talk with authenticity, with sincerity, and with empathy. And I believe by doing that, I've gone through that. I've done that at least 2 times in my journey as a leader here in Beca, Singapore. And so to me, that is what I mean by making courageous decision for the good of the business, for the good of others. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's a real life example that it's not easy, but you're right. It's for the betterment of the business and the people overall, and your clients and everybody that's involved.
That's right.
So who do you consult with, and do you have a mentor, or how do you make sure you're making the right decisions? Because, you can't always, as you said before, you're not an expert in everything, but how as a leader, how do you pull together the right decisions? Who do you consult with, or how do you go about getting good advice?
Yeah. I'm personally a very people-centric person. So if you can observe my leadership style, I'm often very consultative. I'm very people-focused, consultative. So if I encounter a difficult situations or some challenges, I often will ask and talk to my leaders within my organization, and we quite openly talk, discuss, and I will consult. And we have diverse people in the room with different mindsets and so on. Sometimes it helps because certain anger we might not be able to see it, others can see it. So I will go to them and start discussing about the problems, the issues, the challenges, and then we'll come to a collective kind of decision making. So that's often I do. Do I have a mentor? I don't really have one, but I, as a people-centric person, I constantly try to learn leadership skill from observing how great leaders perform, or how they lead the people, and so on. So by observing, thinking about it, I actually learn a lot. Just by observing and by looking at how how do they get out this situation, how do they carry themselves, how do they present the issues, and how do they come to a decision. I think can be quite amazing, and you can. I really learned a lot. Singapore as a country, for example, when we became independent in 1965, nobody gave Singapore hope for becoming who Singapore is today. If not for our founding prime minister, and in the whole world knows who Lee Kuan Yew was. Now he's a great leader, in my opinion, a tough leader, great leader. But there are things that you can learn from him, and so on. So my leadership skills are much honed by observing and learning from other great leaders. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things you never stop learning, do you, or evolving as a leader.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You could have stayed contemporary. You've got an executive role as the managing director,
Yes.
but you've also got governance roles as a board director as well. Now, I know you're obviously in a couple of on a board or two within Beca, obviously on the Singapore board,
Yes.
but you're also on the Singapore Green Buildings Council board, and you're the president of that board, I understand.
Yeah.
So what do you, because you see things inside of Beca and outside of Beca as a director,
Yes.
what do you think are the main responsibilities and considerations for board directors?
Yeah, certainly. I'm happy to share my opinion. Now, the board directors, they have the responsibilities in the areas of governance. Many times, board members or board directors mix up their role with management role. So the role and responsibilities for board members, they first need to be clear about the line of responsibilities. So for board directors, they are responsible in the area of governance. So I say governance, they also need to ensure that the business operations, there's compliance with local regulations, and not only that, the ethical practices and standards required of the business. And the board also has the responsibility to monitor the financial performance of the business, because you run a business, you have shareholders, sometimes there's shareholders to answer to. And so you need to also be in close monitoring on the financial performance of the business. The board also holds the executive management team to account, for how the business is run and so on. So in a nutshell, these are just the few main responsibilities and for board directors. Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more? I'm interested in the Singapore Green Buildings Council.
Yeah, certainly. The built environment, the buildings, it actually constitutes about 40% of carbon emission globally. So 40% is a huge number. So urbanization, buildings play a huge part in trying to bring down carbon emissions, to help the world. Right. So the Singapore Green Building Council, we champion sustainability across the building and construction value chain. And the council, we support capability development of professionals, green design professionals, for the built environment, and also innovative solutions in transforming this industry. So the Singapore Green Building Council is actually a member-based organization. So our members are stakeholders in the built environment value chain. So they comprise the organizations from the developer and the consultants, the architects, the contractors, the subcontractors, the suppliers, across all these value chains. So currently our membership is more than 500 members. It's relatively large as a council. And besides, as part of championing this sustainability, we provide certification for products that are used in buildings. So SGBC, in short, Singapore Green Building Council, we do certification scheme for products that are sent to us for review to make sure that they are sustainable products, low carbon emission products, and then we give them certifications that they can be used for the built environment industry. And apart from all this, the Singapore Green Building Council also do outreach programs to the public, to the community about sustainable practices.
So like education to the community, etc.
Education, through various means, how you can be sustainable even as occupants of the buildings. For example, how could you save energy, create energy efficiency? How do you recycle? We encourage recycling, of waste and so on. So this is the role of Singapore Green Building Council. Now, I'm a president, the current president of SGBC, Singapore Green Building Council. As a president, I work very closely with my board members and the secretariat and the rest of the SGBC network to conceptualize and to not just conceptualize, but to actualize our specific action, sustainable actions to help in decarbonization of our built environment industry. It is a very active association, if you like, now in Singapore. And I've been invited to various speaking engagements, to panel discussion on how do we decarbonize, how do we do more to decarbonize our built environment. So that's a role I play as a president.
And the good thing about providing the certification is that would drive a lot of innovation. So it's not just you must comply. It's really applying the carrot, isn't it, to really drive that innovation that drives success and then drives the carbon footprint down. And I think
that's exactly right. Yeah,
that's really the key with these things. If we can make it interesting and there's value to it, rather than saying you must do this, that's where it's successful.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Craig. And I give you another example. Last year, SGBC, together with various organizations from the government, we rolled out the carbon calculator. So what is this carbon calculator? Now, it's a tool that was developed by the National University of Singapore, commissioned by the Jurong Town Corporation and government organization, supported by Singapore Green Building Council and the Building and Construction Authority. Now, this carbon calculator has information about construction materials, about their embodied carbon contents. That means the emission factors of this material. So for contractors, for example, if they were to purchase construction materials, they can actually use a carbon calculator to determine the kind of a carbon, embodied carbon contents within the material that they can use for their developments or their construction. So by using this carbon calculator, you can make informed decision about what type of material you would choose in order to bring down the carbon emissions. And that to me help a lot. Yeah.
So people can sort of formulate what they're trying to achieve and then test the veracity of that against the carbon with the carbon calculator.
That's right. That's correct.
So how do you so you'd be seeing, how long have you been with the Singapore Green Buildings Council? How many years?
Yeah, so I joined in 2019, just before COVID struck.
So 5 years.
Yeah, you join the council, you have to get voted in by the members in order to be able to get appointed into the council.
Yeah.
And so I joined them. I was voted in by the industry, and then they appointed me. The board then appointed me as secretary to the board for 2 years, and then 2 years later, I was appointed as first vice president of Singapore Green Building Council. And then last year, they appointed me as the president of Singapore Green Building Council. And my term, and under the constitution, we are only allowed to be only on one term as a president. So one term is 2 years. So I will finish my term next year. So it's a fairly short term as a president.
Lots to do in that.
Yeah, so I'm doing my utmost best to have the most impact during my term as a president of the Singapore Green Building Council to do something for our environment, to bring down carbon emissions to our built environment.
So what I want to ask you, because you've been with that council for 5 years now, and now you're the president and you're seeing that. Do you think in Singapore we're starting to turn the corner? Do you think businesses are getting it and they are making? Are we taking this seriously and making the changes we need? Are you seeing that, or do you see there's still a long way to go, or how do you see the state of play?
Oh, I must say that if you ask me, the Singapore built environment industry has made good progress. Thanks to our government, in 2021 they rolled out the Singapore Green Plan 2030, and inside this green plan, we have a Green Building Master Plan 2030. So in that master plan, there were 3 key objectives that we would try to achieve. The government would like the industry to achieve. The number 1 target is to have 80% of our buildings become green building. Okay. And then the second target is that we want 80% of new buildings to be super low energy. When we say super low energy, we are talking about energy savings of 60%, significant, 60% from the 2005 baseline. So there's a 60% savings for new buildings from 2030. And then the last target is to have the best-in-class buildings by 2030 to be 80% more energy efficient. So these are 3 key targets the government has set in the Singapore Green Building Master Plan. So the industry, how much have they progressed? I think we are on the journey. And I must say that over the years, the industry has gone through significant transformation.
Right.
You can say it's categorized by advancement in technology and also sustainability practices that we have targets to achieve. We all work together to try to achieve that targets. I know that the first target of 80% of the buildings to be considered green buildings by 2030 currently is already close to almost 60% of the buildings are already green buildings. So we are on the right track. We are making great progress. But the job to decarbonize the built environment has not finished. We still need to continue to focus on to hit the targets to meet the goal of decarbonization in our built environment industry.
I reckon that's great. 3 clear goals, and then industry with the support of the council is driving towards that, and you can see the tangible results. So you can actually measure what you're going towards.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's fantastic. You must be very proud of that.
It's all hard work. It's not myself, but I think it's involving the stakeholders. Yeah, everyone in the industry is the stakeholders. Everyone come together with a common goal. Our job in Singapore Green Building Council, we champion it, we facilitate, we encourage, and we try to bring stakeholders all together and try to meet a common goal.
So let's just turn around a little bit and let's talk about your current job. So a lot of people won't know about Beca, and they certainly won't know about Beca in Singapore. So what's your current job? What's Beca about? And particularly, what do you see is on the horizon, or what are you driving as a leader of the Singapore Myanmar business? What do you see? What do you got in front of you as the managing director for for the Asian region there?
Beca originated from New Zealand back in 1920, so you can count it's more than 100 years now. And Beca Singapore was established back in 1979. So we are 40 over years now, almost in another few years' time will be 50 years in Singapore. I wouldn't talk too much about my other Beca offices. Like in Indonesia, we are more than 50 years, and then we have Thailand business, and then we have Myanmar. Myanmar is very much started by Singapore, and that was back in 1997. Myanmar, the Beca Myanmar business was originally set up as a low-cost production house for our design and drawings production from Singapore. So we set up with that in mind, and over the years, we also upskilled the Burmese to make them skillful engineers, and we did a few projects in Myanmar using our local business in Beca Myanmar to deliver the projects. But we all know that because of the political crisis that happened a couple of years back, the country has, in a way, moved backwards rather than move forward. But we still keep our business there. We have 40 people in Myanmar. They report to me.
40?
40 people there. And they continue to work collaboratively with the Singapore team. And also they support some of the work in New Zealand and other part of the Beca offices. So, but the primary work they do is to support a Singapore business in churning out design. You see, we in order to make them skilled engineer, over the years we have sent some of our Myanmar colleagues to Singapore to work for a few years, and we train them. And a few of them became they're very competent engineers and good leaders. And when they return back to their country, they start to become team leaders of the team of engineers working under them. And they can speak English. And so over the years, they have trained, they work here, they go back, they went back, they lead another team. They continue to service the Singapore business in the area of design. And even over the last years, they have even upskilled to the level of able to do BIM. We call it BIM, Building Information Modeling. So it's a 3-dimensional design. They can even do that now for our Singapore projects and Singapore buildings. So the Myanmar business is a very important part of our overall Singapore business. So let's look at Singapore business. Singapore business, we started with doing building services, and then a few years later, we have diversified to include civil structure business in the Singapore services in our Singapore business. We are, if I were to ask, if you were to ask any of the big architects here in Singapore who Beca is, they would easily agree with you that Beca is one of the top 3 consulting engineers in Singapore. So in other words, we have great reputation here, all because over the years we have delivered great projects. You know, you can name a few.
Are you able to, because a lot of people will know about civils and structures and things, but probably not familiar with Singapore. What's some of the projects that, that you delivered in your time? Maybe 3 or 4 of the top ones that you've seen.
So back in the 90s, right, 1990s, we started with one big mixed-use development projects called the Bugis Junction. So whoever come to Singapore, you will know where Bugis Junction is. There's a mixed-use development with an intercontinental hotel, with a Grade A office, and then with a shopping mall. So that was the back in the 90s. Now you fast forward to today. Over the last few years, we have delivered other iconic buildings, and that includes, if you arrive in Singapore at Changi Terminal 4, that terminal itself, Beca provided the mechanical and electrical services. So we call MEP services or building services, right? In that buildings, that terminal buildings. And then the other iconic buildings like the Marina one, which is a grade A mixed use office and residential development. The dual building, DUO, the dual building where if you're driving along the motorways at you call it AYE, Ayer Rajah Expressway, you will not be able to miss that iconic buildings, right? And that's two. And we have other iconic buildings like the National.
It's the Marina Bay Sands you're talking about, Unseen.
Yeah, the Marina Bay Sands. We provided the project management. We are part of the project management team.
Right.
But currently, we are doing the fourth tower. That means we call it the integrated resource number 2. So as a mechanical electrical services engineers. So this is another iconic building that we are designing. We have also designed the new science center project. This is a very iconic building. Many other residential buildings here we have done, office tower, hotels, hospitality hotels, and in recent year we have even diversified into doing healthcare facilities buildings. So the current big projects, mega projects is the Alexandra General Hospital, Integrated General Hospital project in Singapore, which is now currently under design stage. And even education buildings, right? If you are in Singapore, you're in town, in the heart of Singapore, you will miss Singapore Management University campus. Beca was the designer for the mechanical and electrical services for that campus. It's a university campus. And we've just about to finish another university, which is the Singapore Institute of Technology University, towards the northeast in Congo. And so we have solid, strong track records of designing iconic building in Singapore. So that's our business in Singapore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is exciting, and it's amazing when you see some of these buildings. Singapore is just one of those places that just, I remember going there in the early 80s in the Navy, and what it is today when we went back.
Yes, completely
different, especially how that's Sembawang and places like that. It's just totally different. Years now. What would be the most rewarding aspect of that role?
Well, I've been as a managing director for last 11 years. I've been with Beca. This year will be my 31 years with Beca. I passed my 30 years. Yeah, 30 years last year. What I enjoy most about Beca as an organization is the culture, and secondly, the people. We have an amazing culture in Beca. We are consultative. We are always seeking to learn new things. We work collaboratively, I must say, and the culture itself is about helping employees to grow in their career. We have diversity and inclusion culture here, and the second aspect of and what I enjoy most here in the last 31 years is the people. Right? The people, whether you're in New Zealand, in Australia, or in Singapore, we have amazing people in Beca. And one of the things that keep me going in Beca is that when I look around my business, the people in my business, whether they are in management role or they are just an engineer, I see lots of potential in them, and they are always striving to do better. And that gives me a lot of encouragement and energy to keep going. I must also say that over the years, there are challenges we face. The COVID period was tough, very unfavorable trading conditions that we face. We have also some underperforming projects that we have undertaken. And so over the past years, I'm honest to tell you that we made losses financial losses in our business. But we have made a complete transformation over the last year. We just finished our financial year, FY24. We made a modest profit. And it's, to me, we have surpassed expectations. We have performed better than planned. And I must say that though the profit is relatively modest, but it represents a significant turnaround from a position where we have preceding years of losses because of the challenges we face, not least the COVID era. The few years of COVID period has huge impact on our business. So we have a turnaround. Our business was profitable. So last year, when I set a goal together with the management team for Singapore to return to profitability, and I must say that we have successfully achieved the goal. Going forward, I have, together with our management team, we have discussed and we have set a goal to sustain a profitable business in Singapore. We have now achieved the goal of returning Singapore to profit. Now we want to sustain a profitable business in Singapore. That's the goal we set. And we have every reason to be very optimistic about achieving this goal. Why? Because last 2 years, we have secured a very strong and robust backlog of work with very healthy margins. And as such, it positioned us for continued success. And I'm very confident that come next year, this time, I will be very happy to say, look, we have once again, achieved our goals. And I have every confidence to be able to do that.
Things like that. What does Ang Seng like to do when he's not, the managing director of Beca Singapore or running the Green Buildings Council of Singapore? What's it? You're a very strong family man, and I know you like a little bit of golf. Do you, how much time do you get to look after yourself and your family, or is it all just work for you?
I am a great, I would say, a great believer of proper succession plans. So, being a leader, being a managing director for a few years, quite a number of years now, I have always think about succession plan. So, I really plan my role going forward. And once I hand over this role as a managing director, I would stay in the business for a short while to help the new team in the period of transition, to make sure the team stay strong and they will continue with a strong legacy of building up this business. Now, I'm also know that it's important that life is not all about work. It's also about your family. I have 3 grown-up kids now. It's about being with the family. It's about enjoying yourself with your loved ones, and also take times to relax, to enjoy the sports like you mentioned, golf. Yes, I love to play golf, although I'm not a good golfer, but I love to play golf because it gives me a lot of relaxation and also reflection time in the golf course, and also a good time to network with clients, so, or network with friends. So we also need to take a step back and find time to do the things you like to do. As I keep saying, life is not all about work. It's also about doing the things you love to do that you could not do when you are working. And so that's where I am. Great.
Yeah, that's excellent. So do you relax when you're trying to find a ball that's gone off into the rough somewhere, or you haven't done that?
If we don't, forget about the ball. If you just go, if it does the ball and then it went somewhere else in the bushes, just forget about it. Just
that's what another ball's for. Yeah.
Yeah.
if a young person was looking to,
Hmm.
start out their career, and it doesn't necessarily have to be professional services. I think what you've talked about today, it could be applied in a lot of industries. But
Yeah.
if you were looking into your younger self, what advice would you give to get where you are today?
Great question. My advice to any aspiring people who wants to be successful in their career or become a leader in their career, I think firstly, the person needs to keep his or her feet on the ground and stay humble. Why I say that is sometimes people tends to overrate themselves, become not real. No? So just be realistic, keep your feet on the ground, stay humble, never stop learning, and
Yes.
stay curious and seek after new knowledge, because you can never stop learning. Learn new knowledge, new skill, and you need to set very clear goals for your career advancement and stay focused on those goals. Because I keep telling people, even new hired fresh graduates from school, when you first join a company like Beca, don't just work because of the money, Be clear about what you want to achieve in your career in the next 3 years, next 5 years, and the next 10 years. And stay focused on those goals. Discuss with your manager how to help you achieve those goals. And in order to be successful, you also need to build resilience and courage. Whenever you encounter difficulties or failures, you must have the courage to pick yourself up and be prepared to go again. Do not let failure bring you down and not able to pick yourself up. Finally, I always tell people to speak and act with sincerity. Whether you are treating your people, your colleagues, or your clients, be sincere. Speak and act with sincerity. Walk the talk. And you will command incredible respect from whoever you talk with. And so these are my humble advice to any aspiring young people who wants to become a leader in their organization in whatever they do. Yeah, clear.
It's great advice. Yes, enjoying the journey. And speaking of the journey, really thank you for taking us through your journey today. It's fascinating. I always say everyone's journey is interesting.
Yeah.
I always learn from you, and I think it's a great journey. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Craig, and thank you for inviting me. I'm always happy to share whatever I can share. I'm still learning, even at my age. I'm still learning, and we never stop learning. And that is something that and I learned a lot from you, Craig, as well. And so thank you for
bad habits. Yeah.
thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be able to share whatever that I've shared. Thank you.